Do not box yourself into what your resume says about you. It's way more than a sheet of paper.
Welcome to Business Buying for Financial Independence. I'm Tim Delaney, and I help young professionals buy small businesses so they can escape the 9-to-5 and take control of their time, income, and future. If that sounds like you, hit the subscribe button and let's get into it. Today's guest is Anthony Atiase. Anthony is a husband, father, serial entrepreneur, and most importantly, son of God. He and his wife own a janitorial company that services York County, South Carolina, and they have a teenager and a golden doodle. Anthony, welcome to Business Buying for Fi. Excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I'm super excited that we get to have a great conversation, and I'm also glad that you were able to say the last name properly. I know some folks have struggled with it, so thanks for that.
No problem. I listened to your podcast a couple times and rewound to make sure I heard you pronounce it correctly and just tried to copy it. So let's just start out by telling me a little bit about your background, where you came from, what got you interested in business in the first place.
Yeah, sure. So I lived in Ethiopia and Ghana and a number of other countries. My dad worked for Organization of African Unity, which is the African Union now. And my mom was a kindergarten teacher, but on the side, my mom was always an entrepreneur at heart. So she basically would sell whatever it is that she could get her hands on that she knew was popular and be able to make some money off of it. And I just watched her doing it as a kid. So growing up, I just always had that in me. From a corporate standpoint, I'm in project management, but entrepreneur has always been in my blood. And I've started different kinds of businesses. And eventually, I just figured, why not just get into a world where business is already started and all you have to do is take it to the next level? And that's kind of how I got into the idea of purchasing a business.
That's awesome. And that's exactly what I preach here all the time is why start from scratch when there are perfectly viable cash flowing businesses out there that with owners that are ready to move on. So what, you decided to look into buying a business. How did you go about it? Was it just a throwing spaghetti against the wall kind of thing, or did you have specific criteria that you were looking for?
Yeah, I'd say a little bit of both. The first one being just really do a lot of research, whether it's I call it YouTube University or just reading books. My brother had actually told me about where he had heard that you can actually buy a business. So did a lot of research on that. And the more I read, the more I researched about it, I started to really believe that it's a possibility that this is something that could happen. And in order for us to move forward, my wife and I, we were like, well, yes, there are a number of businesses out there, but we had our criteria that we put down that whatever business we want to buy has to fall in specific criteria. And that criteria was one, it had to be a business that we felt was recession proof. Two, it had to be a business that was fairly local to where we are. It had to be a business that profited $5,000 every month. And then it had to be a business that we felt we could grow, right? Just based on our background and our skill set, we could come in and scale this business. And that's what we did for the next, I'd say 9 to 12 months, was look for a business that fit that criteria.
All right. So there's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with the criteria. How did you hone in on those specific criteria? What was it? I mean, some of it's kind of intuitive, but what was it what was your thought process like, or how much time did you spend crafting those criteria?
A lot of it, Tim, came out of just reading and understanding what buying a business looks like. Because I think for us, we just wanted to make sure by it being our first business, it was not one that would be too challenging for us because we both have our daytime jobs. So we really started to look at if we wanted to get a business or purchase a business, would it be a business that we would both have to uh, almost like work in, right, versus work on? So with our daytime jobs, and we've got a 13-year-old son and take him to practice and all kinds of stuff, we had to hone in, okay, well, what is it that would make sense for us? And then we just started writing it down. We didn't necessarily want to do a business that was remote. We wanted to be close to it. So that's how we honed in on local. We wanted a business that was recession proof. So we did research over time. It was like, even though the economy may be bad, what business still needs to happen? You think about someone buying a business that picks trash, right? Even if the economy is bad, people still need their trash picked. And that's where we went to, okay, well, let's focus on a business that would have that. And then financially, one piece I didn't touch on, which I will shortly. Financially, we had to make sure that it was profitable. There was a certain dollar amount in our mind that we felt that that business should have, so that when it comes time to scale, it will eventually be what is our income that will take over our corporate income. And then the last piece I didn't touch on was we wanted a business that it was in business for at least 5 years, that had some kind of stability. So we just didn't want to just jump into a business that it was like a year old. That's the case. We might as well open our own.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point there is having a proven track record is one of the purposes of buying an existing business. So if you're looking at a business and it only has a year or two in business, you might be better off starting on your own anyway because you don't know where where it's going to go. Um, with the and then recession proof, I'm a there's there's definitely some recession proof businesses out there. I think most of them that fall in that what people think of as recession proof or more recession resistant. I'm
Yes,
sure that people will or can cut back on cleaning if necessary if things get really tough, but for the most part, it's better than a complete luxury business where people will cut it out of their life completely.
absolutely.
Um, so that's a good thing to look for. If you're somebody that's looking for more upside risk and likes that volatility type thing, then maybe recession proof isn't in your criteria, but it's definitely a good piece of knowledge to think about when you're looking. The interesting thing about like searching for a business though is I have never seen a toggle switch on any of the websites where you go look for businesses for recession proof or not. So it
Yeah.
does make it a little bit more challenging in the sense of you probably had to put some thought process into each one that you looked at.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Both of you are still currently working your day jobs. You're
Yes, we both have 8 to 5s.
okay. So, and that was your part of your plan going into the purchase was neither of you were necessarily going to leave, but you wanted the ability for one or both of you to leave in the future.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. That's the goal. So the more that we can be able to hone in on a business that allowed that, that's something that it's part of what we call an exit plan.
Okay. Do either of you have a background in cleaning?
The only background is cleaning the house, and that's it. And I think that was the exciting thing about it is because it was a challenge in a good way, right? And so cleaning, yes, the house, but professional cleaning, no.
Yeah. Maybe we'll jump into that a little bit more coming up. But so you went down this 9 to 12 month search process.
Yeah.
What were some of the ways that you searched for the business?
Yeah. So we BizBuy Sell website. There were a couple other sites we looked at, but really just with the researching and following individuals, whether it's LinkedIn, social media that bought businesses, researched online for just businesses that were for sale. But I would say BizBuy was really the one the website we went on to and did a lot of digging and filtering and pulling out the franchises and pulling out businesses that we felt did not meet our criteria. Really focusing on the area that we lived in. And initially the challenge was there were just not that many businesses for sale in our areas. We actually expanded to the next county over, which is Mecklenburg County, which is a bigger city, Charlotte, and looked at businesses there. So it was a long process. I can't say that we had set a time to say we'll buy it by this time. We just kept looking, and we felt like when the right time came, the right business will be the one that we'll be able to jump on.
Yeah, it's not a quick process searching for a business to buy. I have come across some people that start their search and within a month or two they find the perfect opportunity and are able to buy and close on it. But
Mhm.
for the most part, I think your time frame is much more in line with what I hear and see talking to others and what I went through myself. It's not as easy as buying a house, which isn't necessarily an easy process either, but it's, and not that it's not a fun process. I know it can be frustrating at times, but from my perspective, it was always fun looking at different businesses on a almost daily basis,
Yeah,
s- learning new industries, all that fun stuff.
yeah, absolutely.
So you find this cleaning company for sale. Did you end up finding it on bizbuysell.com?
I did. I did.
Okay.
I just it came across because was getting notifications on businesses that were for sale. So this came across, and it never in our wildest dreams thought about buying a cleaning company, right?
Hmm.
But the numbers, Tim, seemed to make sense. It fell right into the criteria that we were looking for. It was local, literally 30 minutes away from where we live was the office base. Had an office manager in place. Was in business for about 12 years, and it just everything about it fit into the criteria that we were looking for, and it was scalable, right?
Awesome. Uh, was it listed with a broker or was it seller listed?
Yeah, so it was listed with a broker, which we connected with, had great conversation, great dialogue, and then he was able to, once we signed an NDA, provide us the more information about the business and how it was doing from a financial perspective. So everything seemed to really line up with what we're looking for, and then obviously it was able to connect us to the owner, and here we are.
Nice. That's with Biz Buy Sell, there's a lot of I've found that a lot of those are listed by brokers.
Yeah.
Um, when you reached out to the broker, had you reached out to other brokers? Had you taken that step with other businesses prior?
Yes, we did reach out to others. I think there was a laundromat that we had reached out to, which it didn't really work. A lot of that equipment was very old. And trying to think, there were a couple others that we reached out to, and the uh, the brokers were able to give us information. But once we talked to them, we just felt like it didn't fit, so it
Yeah.
just didn't work out. So that was not definitely not the first business that we had reached out to. There were others.
Okay. Did you have any issues getting through to the brokers at first or getting them to take you seriously at all?
No, we most of them uh, they did really good. There's one where he was not as responsive. But I would say the best one really was the one that we actually purchased. He was very responsive. He wasn't pushy. Gave us the information after we had a interview with him. He gave us the information that we needed, and it was a really smooth process.
Yeah. And you mentioned an NDA earlier. For those that are not familiar, that's a non-disclosure agreement that you're typically going to have to sign before you get detailed information about a business. Uh, those will vary in complexity. Ideally, it's a very simple one-page document that just says you're going to keep everything that you're learning about this business confidential and to yourself. It should allow you to share that information with professional advisors such as
Mhm.
bankers and lawyers and accountants. If it does not, then you need to have a conversation with the broker about what that process looks like, because obviously at some point you're going to want to bring in some other eyes to help you with the deal. Um, the reason I ask about the brokers taking you seriously or getting responses is I have found, and I know others, that sometimes you reach out to a broker about a business on Biz Buy Sell and you never hear back. Whether it's them vetting you or they've got too many people looking or whatever the issue is. But I always suggest that people try to put your best foot forward when you reach out. Uh, Let those brokers know that you're serious. Give them a little background about you so that they don't just think you're another tire kicker. Uh, so, and then you had a little screening call with the broker. Broker decides that you're serious, sends you the NDA, you sign it, and then they give you a bunch more information. You went through that, you decided it was worth pursuing. What was the first meeting with the seller like? Was it in person, on the phone?
Yeah, so it was in person. We met at a Starbucks, and after we saw the information that was needed, which the information took us to what I would call 50% of us feeling good about it, but the other 50% really had to do with meeting the owner.
Hmm.
So we met with her. Like I said, it was locally, so we went, sat down with her. We just really wanted to get to know who she was just as an individual. We wanted to know why she was selling the business, and then just get a better understanding of the culture of the business that she had created. Because we could see the numbers and everything, but obviously we want to seek, almost call it behind the scenes. And she gave us all that information. We talked for probably about 2 hours, just really getting to know each other.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things you can do once you're serious about the business. Yeah, and you don't have to be 100% sure. Like Anthony just said, they were about 50% of the way there, which I think warrants a good conversation with the seller and a long one, not a 10-minute phone call. You could do that too if you want, but just for me personally, when I'm interviewing potential employees, I like to spend an hour with them. And
Hmm.
people used to laugh at me because I was hiring for a wine and liquor store clerk. Most people in my position were spending 5 to 10 minutes in an interview with somebody. I would spend up to an hour with people, and that's because somebody can put on a show for 5 to 10 minutes, but not many people can keep up an act for an hour. And if they can, good for them. And they got me fooled. But but the same, now with the seller, like you're investing a significant amount of money, significant amount of time. Get to know that person, because that person's behavior and character will tell you a lot about the business.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. Yep.
you get that feeling of trust and certainty and then you can trust the numbers even more.
Yeah.
So that's great. Was that the only time you met the owner or the seller?
Uh, that was the um, that was the first time we met him, and then we also wanted to meet the office manager of the business, and which we asked her if that was fine, if the office manager knew that the business was being sold, and she said yes. So the second meeting was with us, the seller, and her office manager. Wanted to get to know her better because ultimately she was the one that we're going to rely on. She's running the business from a office managerial perspective. So we met with her as well, and same thing. It was a couple hours conversations over coffee, and we just really became more and more comfortable just with like you said, getting to know the business through the owner and the office manager.
Yeah, and that's great that you were able to have that conversation with the office manager because that person is, if you and your wife are both working 9 to 5 jobs, your um, your office manager is running the business for you, so you need to make sure that you're going to be aligned and a good fit for each other
Mhm.
culturally,
Yeah,
uh, and there are situations where sellers won't let you have that access
yeah,
to key employees for whatever reason, and it's not it can be a red flag, but it doesn't always necessarily mean it's a red flag. It just could be that they don't want other people to know that they're close to selling. They don't want that office manager to go look for a new job before they sell, which is a tough position as a buyer, but eh, it's definitely a great thing that you were able to spend time with that person as well.
that's absolutely.
Uh, how many employees were there
And
when you 10?
well, including the office manager 11.
Yeah. So you met with the office manager, you met with the seller, and at what point did you start negotiating the price or the terms or those kinds of things?
Yeah, it was after we met with the office manager. We did the research. Um, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was in the. This was through research. We were able to contact someone who was in the cleaning business, meaning he bought and sold cleaning businesses. Actually, I think he retired, but he kind of gave us an idea of like multiples for this industry, and just looking at the numbers and whether it made sense. So he just kind of told us what number to focus on, and then once we were able to do that, we had to decide whether we were going to go down the SBA route or look at other creative ways of financing.
Okay. Do you remember what the kind of the range of multiples was that this person told you for this type of business?
Yeah, this one was, I believe it was anywhere from 1.5 to, I believe it was 3.5, 3.5. Yeah,
Okay. Times profit or
profit times
yeah.
profit.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the multiple system, it's essentially taking the profit of the business and multiplying it by the 1.5 up to 3.5 to decide what the business is going to be worth. And that it is a range because there are factors that play into that. If the office manager was also leaving with the seller, then it would probably be on the low end, if not even lower than that multiple, versus if they had everything completely automated and multiple key people and lots of equipment, you'd probably be on the higher end of that multiple. So it is a range. There's no perfect science to it. It's a combination of art and science in trying to value the business. But so you settle on a price, and then then you had to decide on financing. Which avenue did you go down and why?
yeah. So based on the research I had mentioned earlier, we definitely did a lot of research on SBA financing and just really looking at the time interest rates were a little higher for us, and we were like, well, we don't know whether we want to go down this route. So just really started thinking about, well, how can we be able to finance it creatively that would make sense? So what we did was we took we approached it, I would say, three ways. The first way was doing a partial line of credit through our home equity, and then we had got some investors to provide some cash as well. And then the third piece is we did seller financing with her on, gosh, I think it was like a 5-year note. So that really kind of made sense with us. We know with the investors, we had worked out a deal of obviously getting them through interest rate back over a number of years, and then we, like I said, took some money out, and that's the approach we took. The numbers through negotiation made sense, and that was it. We bought it.
Awesome. What do you would you mind giving us the breakdown of percentage wise of how much cash versus how much investors versus how much seller financing?
Yeah, sure. So it was cash was 50%, right? And then the actually seller financing was 25, and then the investors was 25 as well. So
Okay.
that's kind
So
of
you,
how it was split out.
yeah, so you took a significant chunk of your own capital to put up towards this,
Yes.
which is good when the interest rates are high, as they have started becoming a few years ago when you bought this, and
Mhm.
still are now. It helps save you some of that interest expense. What when did the idea of bringing in investors come in, and are they equity stakeholders or are they just lenders, or what's the situation there?
Yeah. So they were just lenders. I've always had people reach out just through the different businesses that I've started in the past. Close friends who just try to find ways where they could invest outside of 401k, outside of stocks, and they're like, hey, I've got a little bit of cash sitting in the bank making X interest. Um, do you have an opportunity for me to invest it? Yes, and I can get you a better interest rate than the bank can. So that's where we just put a presentation together, and there were actually five or six investors separately. We had calls with them, and four out of that six were like, "Hey, I'm on board. How much you need?" Right. So yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So the I think that comes back to sharing your story and y- telling other people what you are doing and what you're up to, keeping them informed.
Mhm.
Because when opportunities like this arise, they're not uh, kind of caught off guard or taken by surprise that all of a sudden you're looking for, offering ways for them to make money on their money. Uh, that's a creative way, and then they're not equity holders, so eventually they'll be paid off just like the seller is, and you and your wife will own the business outright, which is good for personally for a small business. It's when possible. I like the avenue of owning it myself because you uh, don't have to be beholden to partners forever.
Mhm.
It's you know I do like partnerships in some businesses, but I think especially for a small business acquisition, it makes sense to try to own all the equity yourself. Uh, So you close, or so you get this financing lined up. You're moving towards closing date. Uh, Anything in particular that you did leading up to the closing in terms of getting to know the business better? Did you meet the rest of the staff prior to closing? Uh, how did that
Yeah.
go?
So we didn't meet the staff. We had several calls with the owner. We did a lot of research, joined Facebook groups that did cleanings, and just really wanted to understand the business. Like I said, did a lot of reading, watching YouTube, and the owner, she's awesome. She really just sat with us and went over the numbers, and went over uh, just what cleaning looks like. Uh, she trained us on how to clean. There's a professional way of cleaning, right?
Hmm.
So we really, as we leading up to that date, we just really wanted to know more about the business.
Okay. So a lot of self-education because again, you didn't come from a cleaning background, but you were still able to buy a cleaning business. This is one of those questions I get all the time from people of, what you bought a liquor store. You must have been in the liquor industry for years prior. Nope. Didn't know anything. You can learn the skills. You can learn the the skills, the products, all that kind of stuff as you go. That's in my opinion for most businesses. I'm sure there's some exceptions out there, but so you spent that time. Now you got a deal working towards closing. You're educating, learning, uh, and then once you closed, what was that? I mean, you're still working your 9 to 5 jobs or 8 to 5 jobs. So you're not uh, out there cleaning houses every day. So
Mhm.
what was the transition like? What do you do? What did you do as you took over?
Yeah. So when we closed, literally the next day, we were like, "Oh wow, it's ours, right?" What? It was a little bit shocking that it actually happened. And then, Tim, what was interesting is so we have our clients and we get paid for majority of our clients, not with our commercial residential, we get paid daily. So you just see this dollar amount coming in like right away, literally right away into your bank account through Stripe, and it was like, wow, it's not like we had to wait. Like when you're starting your own business, this is automatic. It literally happened the day that we closed, and that was an eye opener for us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the beauty of a cash-based business where customers are paying right as they get the service or product. Uh, and it makes you feel good about that acquisition when you see that cash coming in right away. Like you
Right.
said, you started if you ever started a business and you sit there and wait and wonder when your first dollar is going to come in, it's far different when you purchase an already running business. The uh, So did you have a team meeting or anything? Did you go introduce yourselves to the rest of the employees, or was
Yes.
it just kinda all of a sudden yeah, how did that work?
Yeah. So we, with the owner, we have obviously after we had purchased it with the owner, we had a team meeting, brought some food, and we just the owner mentioned that we are taking over. She'll still be in the picture, just kind of helping out. We got to meet each person. We got to tell our stories. We got to hear their stories. We got to really let them know that we're definitely invested in them as a team. Nothing is changing right away in regards to whether it's layoffs or any changes. We're just the owners now, and we want to learn as much as possible and do evaluations. And whatever we do, we would just want to make it better. So that's kind of what happened. They were excited, and we just started this journey with them.
Awesome. Did you lose any staff? Did anybody quit or decide to move on?
Yes, we lost those one person who had decided to move on because I think for her it was the unknown with a new person coming on board, which is fine. So yeah, it was just out of everybody, it was just one person that decided to move on.
Yeah, that's great. I've done a whole YouTube video on trying to brace employees for the switch in ownership because it can be they're nervous, they're scared, they hear new and the unknown, as you mentioned, the uncertainty, unknown commodity. They might have heard horror stories about private equity firms that buy companies and fire everybody to make them more profitable, and so that's understandable. It's good that you only lost one person. It's probably manageable. Was this an asset sale or a stock sale?
assets. So we with it we got, wow, all the vacuum cleaners, just all supplies, uh, the software, all clients came on board. So just
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. And that's the difference between an asset sale and a stock sale is when in an asset sale, you're actually usually creating a new entity to take over all of the assets of the old entity, and then the seller can shut down their entity, which gives you a lot of, as a new owner, gives you a lot of protection from liability in case there's
Yep.
any outstanding issues or problems that the previous owner had. Uh, on the other side, it's a little bit more of a headache to set everything up again. So technically you're rehiring all those employees, putting them on your own payroll and doing all that stuff. So the name of the company, I'm guessing from your shirt, is Made Angels.
Yes, Made Angels. Made
Is
Angels
that
and a company.
is that a franchise or is it a independent?
It's independent. And that's another thing I didn't mention was when I saw the name, or when we saw the name, we're like, huh, there is a possibility of expanding it to franchising if we would like to. So that all fell into what we were looking for. So the name Made Angels really we fell in love with it.
Yeah, it's a great name, and
It-
I'm you know franchises can be a very good thing for certain type of business owners.
Yep.
They can be constraining to other types of business owners. So,
Yep.
but having that franchise potential is always big. I interviewed Jimmy Feeman on episode 2, I believe it was,
Mhm.
and he started franchising his business, no bake cookie dough scoop shops,
Okay.
and
Well,
did well with it. So there are a lot of different opportunities out there for franchises, and I see a lot of franchises in the cleaning space. So you could definitely be onto something in the future there.
yeah,
And that goes back to your scalability criteria as well, right? I mean,
exactly. Yep.
obviously, cleaning is something that everybody could use in an area. So I'm sure there's no end to the potential customers in your local area, but then that whole possibility of franchising is real as well. What other lessons did you learn through this whole process of buying a business that you wish you would have known at the beginning?
I will say, uh, Tim, was actually, really just putting together your criteria, but also when you come in, and this is for us, when we took over the business, don't try to change things right away. And I think that's where sometimes people get in the mindset of whether they're working at a corporate job or anything else, and just based on experience, we could come and just make these changes. And you've just got to be really, really careful about that. And I would say those are a couple of things that we had learned. I mean, the owner had the business for over 12 years, and it was very successful, and it was it made sense with some of the things that she had done. But in our mind, we were like, well, maybe we should try these supplies. Well, there's a reason that she's been using these supplies for a long time. Well, maybe we should try these type of shirts. Well, they look good, but when you wash them numerous times, they're probably going to shrink from a sweating perspective because they're cleaning. They have to feel comfortable. So those are the things that we didn't really recognize, and then we wanted to um, update the website. Well, if you do that and changing the host, you could change your rankings. So they're just things that you just really have to be very patient and ask a lot of questions.
It makes sense, and that's one thing I tell people all the time is don't rush in and try to make big changes
Yeah.
right away. Give it a solid 6 months at least, and let the changes come from within too. So, you sometimes you find employees that have had great ideas for years, but either didn't want to voice them for some reason or did voice them, but they fell on deaf ears because the seller was set in their ways and didn't want to hear anything. Or wasn't willing to take chances or wasn't willing to implement change. But uh, when you listen to the employees that have been there for a while, that's and let them share their ideas, then you can start making real impactful change that improves their lives, improves their job, and hopefully makes you more money as well. Yeah, I did. I remember when I bought my wine and liquor store, I the only big change I made day one was my point of sale system because I needed I wanted that set up from day one where it was electronic and tracked all my inventory because we had counted all the inventory the night before closing anyway. So in my mind, it made sense to implement that immediately. Everything else I waited on. I waited about a year and a half to change the name of the store to make it more search engine optimization friendly and things like that. So highly recommend not making big changes. Did any of those changes that you made, so you mentioned the cleaning supplies specifically, like, did that cause a big issue with customers or with staff?
Yeah, because I think for the there were some of the cleaning products that did not clean as well, right? There were some where our customers were used to a certain scent in their home, and changing that was uh, was a challenge for them. There were some dusters that we had thought about cleaning well. There's certain dusters where the microfiber that's being used will not leave any kind of lint on the blinds or anything like that. So they're just things that you just learn and know that people may not, uh, the average person may not know, but that's why they call them professional cleaners.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I talked about it from the employee perspective. That the employees are nervous about ownership change. Customers can be nervous too, and then if you compound that nervousness with my house smells different. There's lint where there used to not be lint. Uh-oh, these new owners are not good. I'm gonna go, I just got a postcard from another cleaning service. Maybe I'll give them a call and give them a new trial. So yeah, you got to be careful about change too early, too fast when you make that acquisition. Um, any other learning lessons or anything you'd like to share about your process?
Yeah. Well, one thing we did do is we had to really understand if what can we do to make sure that we keep our employees, we make sure that it's a great culture, and I think you can have your jobs, and there's certain things that you're like, oh, if I owned a company, I would do X, Y, and Z. So those are some of the things that we want to implement from an employee perspective. They didn't have paid holidays, so we implemented that. If you worked for a year, you get four of the holidays would be paid. We wanted to, from a client perspective, we started sending monthly newsletters just about tips on cleaning. Uh, Started really honing in on our clients and trying to understand who they are. So getting to know them better. And if we found out a client had a baby, we would send a gift. So those were things that really, I would say, uh, elevated the business when you talk about scalability. And then going back to the employees, we remembered birthdays, and we had get-togethers. So as an owner, you're really going to have to think about what can I do to um, keep my team and build this culture where they wouldn't want to leave.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's such a important part of running a business is keeping your staff engaged and happy and proud of where they work too. So, those gifts to new parents can also make your that employee feel good about themselves when they go in to that house the next time, and chances are that couple's thanking them for the gift, and
Mhm.
making them feel proud of the company that they're a part of. That's awesome. What do your operations look like day to day? So you mentioned you're in a full-time job. Presumably, a lot of your cleaning happens during those working hours as well, especially on the residential side. What How does your operation look? Are you working every night? What's it look like?
Yeah. So the our hours are 7:30. The business hours are 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have the office manager, who she pretty much runs the operations. She sets a schedule out for the team the week prior. So they go into it's called ZenMaid. They go into their app and understand what their schedule is for the week. She answers phone calls from potential clients. She manages call outs from team members and does a great job with rescheduling. So, really, Tim, meaning my wife and I, would probably in a week, we spend 5 hours on the business. We have our call with our office manager every Friday at 10 o'clock to do check in. Now, if there is a client issue that she can't resolve, then we will, and it could be like they want a partial refund or something. Then we can reach out to that client, or if there's something bad that's happened, we can reach out to the client as well. And then on Fridays, our office manager goes to the storage facility and loads up on supplies and buys whatever supplies that's needed. We also have an accountant, and every week our accountant does our payroll. She does our business taxes. She works with office managers to do HR and bringing someone on board. So we just have those individuals and systems and processes in place. So, and that's why we can afford to. 5 hours is even actually pushing it. I would say probably even 3. We don't spend much time on it.
That's awesome. So you're able to buy a business that is generating cash flow for you, building equity as you pay down the loans, and only takes you 3 to 5 hours a week on a typical week.
Yeah,
And I'm guessing that's a lot of that time is working on scaling, building it up, trying to find avenues for
yeah,
new business.
absolutely. So that time is definitely spent. My wife is great in marketing, so it's really working on getting the marketing piece out. My focus is on cold calls for commercial accounts, and possibly just really trying to increase the number of commercial accounts that we have, and then just checking in with customers, clients, say how things going, or a new person. Oh, we just saw you had a new clean. How's that going? And then obviously looking at the numbers, make sure things make sense. Now, I do spend an hour out of that 3 to 4 hours every week. I do the payroll, but I'll send it to when I finish. I send it to the accountant to process it.
That's awesome. That's a good. Were those systems in place when you bought the business, or was that all these things with the accountant and books and calling customers? Is that something that you implemented after the fact?
Yeah, all those systems were in place. The only thing that wasn't was just the periodic checking in with customers, see how things are going. Additional marketing, whether it's Google Ads or whatever other marketing that we would do, that really wasn't in place. But everything else was in place, and that tied into why we said, you know what, we should buy this business.
Chris, has it grown? Have you been able to grow it since you purchased?
Yes, the business is growing. We're getting more commercial accounts because that's just one place that we wanted to focus on. And really, it's just really getting to know getting to know the business well and finding ways to expand on it. So as of now, we're in York County, South Carolina, which is a big county, but we're definitely looking at expanding to neighboring counties.
That's awesome. That's a great success story so far, from a acquisition of a 12-year-old business to running it part-time, less than part-time, while maintaining full-time jobs. This is just one of those powerful things about buying a business that's already operational. If you had to start this, if you had started this from scratch, just ballpark, how much time per week do you think you would have had to put in to get it up to 10 staff, 11 staff, and the amount of revenue that you're doing now?
Definitely over 40 hours a week. Over 40 hours a week. I know people who've started cleaning business, and it is not easy to run it, to try to manage your books and try to bring new cleaners on board, try to get clients and building. Because the thing about cleaning is the individual has to trust you to come into their home, which is not easy. But if they go online and see Made Angels has over 140 reviews with 5 stars and all that, then they like feel comfortable. But you as an individual, and then you have to get probably insurance, which some do not. So it would not. I don't know how folks do it to start off, but it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. And that's the power of buying the existing business.
Yep.
It's a cheat code. You get to jump ahead so far in the process and then build from there.
Yeah.
I do want to acknowledge, to some of the listeners that might say, well, good for Anthony and his wife. They had 50% of the purchase price to put down. Fair enough. But you did mention that you tapped into a home equity line,
Yeah,
right?
you
To
did.
do
You
that.
did. You
So
tapped into that. That's where majority of it came from. So um, nothing was necessarily from a savings. We just tapped into some of this home, not all, but some of our home equity, and was able to do it.
yeah, and so you're still paying interest on that money, and it's so you took a chance, you bet on yourselves, and it's paying off, which
Yeah. Yep.
is what you want to see.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And to your point, real quick, Tim,
yeah,
um the business itself is just is paying that loan
yeah,
that's out there, right?
yes,
So it's not even coming out of our house residential income.
yeah. That's an important thing to remind everybody with these loans, because I talk to a lot of people that are very debt averse. They're scared of loans. And it's depending on where you grew up or what you listen to, you hear people talk about that's bad all the time. And yes, it is if you're using a credit card to buy vacations that you can't afford and
Mhm.
clothes that are too expensive and things like that, going out to fancy dinners that you shouldn't be paying for. But when you're using debt strategically to purchase a cash flowing asset like a business, like real estate, it's a whole different ballgame. And what Anthony just said there is that the business is paying for the debt. It's not him
Yeah.
and his wife going into their paychecks every week and pulling money out to help cover this debt. It's the business pays for it and pays them and pays 11 other people. It's a great thing for the economy. It's a great thing for them personally. And so just everybody out there, don't be afraid of debt when it comes to business acquisition. It's a powerful tool. And I guess on that note, Anthony, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. It's definitely inspirational to a lot of people out there. I know, cleaning businesses are tough, but if you can buy one that's already up and running, it's definitely a lot easier way to get started. So thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for being on Business Buying for Financial Independence. I look forward to talking to you again in the future when you start those franchises.
Absolutely, Tim. Thank you so much. This is awesome. And again, thanks for having me. And just to let people know, do not box yourself into what your resume says about you. It's way more than a sheet of paper.
It's a great way to close. Don't let your resume box you in. Do what feels right.
Well,
Thank you everybody for listening. We'll see you again soon. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Business Buying for Financial Independence. If you're serious about owning your time and building long-term wealth, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.